has 23 years of experience in results-driven professional with 3 years in spearheading the establishment of an analytic unit in Bank Islam and driving organizational growth through effective leadership. He has demonstrated expertise in data analysis, team management, and strategic planning, proven track record of delivering measurable results and optimizing business performance. So, without further ado, I will pass the floor to Mr. Fairuz and you guys can enjoy the second session.
Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to all the participants in this virtual conference with MFPC. Today, as a second speaker, I will share a little bit, not much, about corporate experience in AI and also in ethics related issues. Alright, so okay, just a little bit background of me. I'm a head of data science in Bank Islam. I just newly joined in 2020 and spearheading the data science unit in Bank Islam. Before this, I was in from telecommunications industries. Okay, so there's a lot of things we would like to share today. All right, and there are two areas, things that we wanted to share. The first is on the innovations in AI. That is very important because before we can talk about that, then only we can talk about the ethics itself, right? And during the first part of my presentations, I will share some of the use cases and some of the use cases that what we have done in the Bank Islam also, and also what the other industries players are doing. And then second part, we will share about the ethics, some of the considerations that we should look into because the impact of cultivating this AI. All right. So if you look into the first slides, I think for innovations, that is a very continuous journey. Even if we put into a different perspective, like imagine there is no AI, the companies still have to grow and innovate, and that is because of the competitor and for the company to grow, right? And that is a continuous learning throughout the journey of the companies. But what involved during the transformations of these innovations, there are three parts. There are knowledge innovations, impact on business models, and also the processes. So if we try to understand these three main areas of innovations, then only we'll be able to put the AI in which area that will impact it. All right, and then once we know that, then we'll be able to ascertain that how does we manage those areas, right? For example, looking into knowledge and innovations, then we are looking into adoption in firms. How does the organization's structure, right? Do we need, for example, a new unit to do focusing on AI, or do we need tools? Do we need platforms? That will be some consideration. Second, how do we change our business model? How do we adapt or incorporate the AI in our business model? So organizations will have to consider this and make changes, looking into considering the coming technologies such as AI and machine learning. And most importantly are the processes, right? Because we believe that obviously the processes does not stagnate over a period of time. New things coming in, new blood coming in, so new ideas coming in order for the company to grow and sustain, then the processes has to be changed, right? So if you look into this specifically on the next slide, that we have to measure the AI adoptions before and also after. There are many pillars, areas that will be need to be considered, right? So this is part of this paper that I've obtained, looking into, for example, business model innovations, product innovations, and technology driven of AI. So all these need to be measured, so that in any organizations, when they measure that, they will expect how does the changes have been made, for example. And looking into that, the reason is because the resources spent, the investment made, for example, is very critical, right? In order for the organization to adopt AI, and as a corporate in a private sector, looking into long-term and short-term investments is very important. That's why it's very important. Perspective is before and also after the AI technology adoptions need to be measured and focused on. Okay, so I would like to share some of the use cases looking into from impacted in the financial industries. I think from my previous speaker talking about what is AI and most recently the generative AI. So I will quote that and continue to share some of the use cases related to generative AI. I think before I continue with this slide, I mean AI is not that a buzzword just recently, because it has been for example for 50 years. Even in Bank Islam, we have done implemented some of the AI. For example, if you look into the counter itself, for a supervisor, branch of supervisor, to verify, in those days, we have to key in the numbers before the counter verify that, right? So now in Bank Islam, for example, that you don't have to key in, because to smooth the process, the cameras will look into the supervisor and recognize that it's a human that is going to verify that transaction, for example. So those are the examples that we have implemented in Bank Islam, and a lot more because for example, next best product and a lot more use cases. In other areas, and also for other, for example, in Goldman Sachs, Klana, in Japan, in ING also, some of these, the use of generative AI has been implemented. Most of them are on related to content creations actually, because the reason is it will assist the persons in order to prepare to the content before you speak to the customer, for examples, right? Okay, so that is my first part of my sharings. The second part will be on the considerations of ethical considerations, right? Okay, so if you look into the definitions itself, right, ethical considerations in AI are critical to ensure fairness, accountability, and transparency. So it's very important, because looking into the use cases, then how does this AI really helps? Does the output from the AI really helps in the decision making process? All right. So that's where the problems and also the concerns coming in. All right. So outside there, a lot of ethical framework related to AI has been established, and a lot more organizations are coming out with the framework, such as, for example, the Ethical AI from UK, Trustworthy AI, Responsible AI from China. All right. So this is a growing concerns, and because they know that the impact of making wrong decisions, okay, related due to the AI is significant, right? So hence it's very important if we really need to evaluate before we really before the decision has been made, right? Okay. So what are the key ethical principles in AI and MLs? There are 4 key ethical principles in AI and ML. And I would like to quote that during our keynotes from SE, there are 3 principles that has been similar to what we can see on the screens, which is the first one is on the fairness and bias, transparency and explainability, and accountability and responsibility. Those are the key principles that SE has been rolled out this year, if I'm not mistaken, when they make it public. And to me, the other additional key principles are the privacy and data security. What I'm saying is because when the model has been developed, right, it needs the data, right? So the data need to be in very proper conditions, and also need to be governs around this privacy and also security. Because if we don't have the data is being leaked out, for example, or the data is not really contains some noises, right? So then the model, the output from the model that has been developed probably will be biases, for example, right? So that is the first key. Second, it goes into fairness, and then how does the model, machine learning model develop, really provide fairness and also but reduce some biases. I would like to share with you that the Malaysian Authority of Monetary Authority of Singapore (MAS) has released this year the Veritas 2.0. It's a toolkit that can be used to measure fairness, ethics, transparency, and also accountability. So if you guys go into GitHub and then you just type Veritas 2.0 FEAT, then you will find out, and then you can try and download it. So during machine learning model development, you can try this library, and then you will measure whether your model, the fairness of your model. Because if you look into the most fundamentals of machine learning, this is only about the most fundamental is about probability. It just gives a probability whether is it for example, you talk about high probability of customer to churn to get this product, for example. So it does not guarantee that the customer will accept the products, but it just gives a high probability in terms of numbers, for example. So that particular numbers will be measured and evaluated against a bigger population, and that's where we see that whether the model has successfully produced a good model in terms of fairness and also biases. All right. The third one will be on the transparency and explainability. What does it mean? What does it mean means that the model that has been developed, is there a lineage on that, for example, right? How does the model is being developed? What are the inputs? What is the output itself? So in terms of technology, for example, we have, like, for example, the data lineage, we have the model registry, and then we have all the proper documentations on how the algorithm is worked on. All right. So those are the transparency and explainability, meaning that it is not a black box. And I'm very sure that AI and ML is not a black box. It can be explained. It depends on the person, the ability to explain on the algorithm itself. All right. And the last one will be the accountability and the responsibility. What does it mean is that when the model of the machine learning is being developed, does it concur with all the end-to-end processes when it impacts to the, for example, proposing a new product plan or insurance plans to the customer. Okay, so these are the key 4 principles that I would like to share with you. So looking into the implications and risks, so I took a survey from from Gartner in 2023. There are around 78 of CIOs who provides what are the potential risks of generative AI actually. Okay, so if you look into here, 56% of the respondents says that the risk of misuse or with bad actors creating higher quality misinformations, phishing emails, malware, fraud, and spam. All right. So those are the feedback from the CIOs, and 50% of them says that the AA and ML can hallucinate facts and make reasoning error. So there are growing concerns. Saying that what are the implications or potential risks when we start using generative AI, which is a valid concern. It's important for us to have this so that we know that how we want to mitigate this actually. Alright, so looking to the next slides, I have a few ethics and considerations examples, right? Okay, on the next slide please. Okay, there are a few examples here that I would like to share with you related to financial planner, for example. Bias in underwriting and pricing. So if you look into here, imagine that you are preparing underwriting paper, for example, right? And then you get the help from the ChatGPT, and then where you input certain informations, and then you get the help, and then they give you provide information, and then you use that in your justifications for underwriting, right? So how do you know that the information shared is good, right? Because the algorithm has the intentions that raise of certain demographics, and then it leading claims to other discriminations. But what does it mean is that you don't know when you start using ChatGPT, specifically from OpenAI, how much data that has been parameterized, right? Until is it a recent data, right? So we were talking about if a person who subscribed to the services of ChatGPT 4 or ChatGPT 5 or most recently, right? So does it really helps that? How does the tuning of the data on the ChatGPT reduce the biases and also the fairness itself, right? So those are the considerations. Looking into the second option, example also are the same, right? Okay, so I try to navigate again in a second slide on the health insurance and discriminations, alright, in context of health insurance. So indeed, this is much more high risk, critical, because if you use AI to predict an individual's health risk, right? If you look into their way of life, their weight, for example, age, right? And then you use AI that recommend the individual's health risk, right? So do you know that is it true? Can you compare that with an evaluation from a doctor, professionals, right? So these are very kind of considerations that you need to look into, right? You can't just, in my opinion personally, you can't just rely 100% from what the AI can provide, right? And similarly to the insurance and fraud detections. Okay, so why does it happening? Okay, why is it happening? So I would like to explain it from a very academic, from perspective, because then we would like to understand that and understand why does it happen. Okay, on the next slide, I would say that algorithms drive AI and MLs, and it enables the data processing, pattern recognition, and decision making. So we try to understand why do you use algorithms, because it tries to generalize the task. You should just imagine that if you have a big pool of populations, right? And then how do you predict that a person who walk into the branches, to Bank Islam branches, that he is a high net worth customer? He is going to be fraudster. He is going to be our long life customer. We don't know. That is fundamentals. We don't know the person's behavior in the future. Alright. So that's why people, experts, academicians, build theories, right? Because they don't know about the future, then they make theories. Okay. But when we look into more data and we consume a lot more data, then we see there's a pattern. When we talk about pattern, then we come up with pattern. Okay, this person or populations has different pattern. This another population has different patterns, and those patterns, and when it's very consistent, and the academician, the people say that okay, let's name it. When we name it, then we call it as algorithm. So that is the process. That's the thought process. How do we come up with an algorithm? However, when we consume a lot more data, as of today, in the last 20 years, you say that a lot more data is a new all. When we see that there's a lot of patterns, and then we say that, okay, we start using old algorithms. So the algorithms were invented many years ago, right? Maybe 20 or 30 years ago. But do you know that there will be much more algorithm outside there? We don't know, right? But so it's our job to understand the pattern, to understand the data, and then we can come up with our own algorithm. But there's a limit. And it has been proven by the Donkey says that on the generalization bound, there's a limit with that. It can't go beyond that, and it's being proven through mathematics. Okay, when for examples that if we took some of the testing on the sample data, right, in sample data, for examples, and then we tested out with unseen data outside from the populations, but it has come up with similar attributes, right? See, it has contained a similar attribute, but it's not unseen data, right? It is unseen data. It's not been seen before. So when we compare that, there's a limit for the model or the algorithms to predict the bigger population and stuff. So if you look into that, then that happens. That's why some of the machine learning models ended up into biases and fairness. All right. So then I would like to explain again, for examples that looking into generative AI, right? What is generative AI? So generative AI again is like in a layman term is about to predicting the next text. That is what in layman term that I would like to share. But in technically, what it happens is that the models is consume a large amount of data. It try to tokenize it and then try to take some of the in-betweens and then try to predict. But the deep learning knows that what are the missing tokens inside there, but it try to predict. And then it do that iteratively with all the contents of the data, and then it give weights, right? So what happened is that it come up with a foundation models, FMs, right? So what happened is that when we say that the generative AI, how does it mean? Is that when we give a context, we give a prompt, that is a prompt that try to understand whether what is the next text within the particular prompt that we given, right? So you look into the whole populations here of the fundamental foundation models, and then it give a prompt, and then it tries to predict which are the next best text within that particular prompt that we supply.
Generative AI is about that, and that is what we call as large language model, LLM. Okay, so because of the generalization bound, so it does not properly able. The issue coming in is when it does not be able to put the prompt into a proper context that contains within the data, and that because, for examples, they are limited data being consumed, being parameterized. That's one thing. Second is that there is no tuning, weightage, less weightage that has been developed within the foundation model. So that's why now a lot of researchers are doing that. For example, tuning, apply weightage on the foundation models. And just recently, for example, one billionaire from China released another 01.ai foundation models that is freely you can use it, because it claims around 34 billions of parameters has been processed, right? Compared to what the Meta is releasing, the Llama 2, right? So those are very interesting area, and if you understand that, and then you understand the limitations, then you know it end up into biases and fairness. Okay, so how do we mitigate this? Okay, there's a lot of steps that for you to mitigate any ethical concerns, but generally there are two approaches. The first approaches, the fit, the technical, and then the second approaches is non-technicals. So if you look into technicals, approaches, then you have, for examples, the toolkit that released by MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore. You can use it and download it, and then you can evaluate whether the models the model developed is something good enough for you to use, or you look into non-technical approaches, where, for example, you take in the process of developing the machine learning, you get a human being to validate the results and then to mediate the results. All right. Those are the two approaches that we can use actually. Okay. So I would like to share again some of these survey when Gartner obtained from all the senior financial services executives. It says that, of course, the tone of the generative AI at least from Bank Islam is that we have to be cautious. We know that the implication is huge if we use the AI wrongly and make decision wrongly based on the AI. But after a thoroughly thought, and then we know that it really actually give potential benefits actually, because if you look into here, it really helps in terms of productivity, right? In terms of turnaround time, and in terms of reaching to the customer itself, right? For example, because in the end, the measure of success of any kind of innovations are the productivity, the growth, the net profits itself, the revenues, and the costs. Right, so those are the measure of the success, right? But we look into here, we know that the issues and then the challenges, but we know that how can we obtain, and we see that there's a lot of potentials, and we believe that from senior executives, we have to put certain controls while we navigating into embracing AI in our organizations, right? So in my last slide, okay. I would like to say that summarize is very important for us to take a very cautious approach. And then I just like to share with you, for example, when I attended a conference, a breakfast insight organized by Open Golf actually, yesterday at Sheraton. So it was it's aligned. When we did a survey around 30 plus executives, 43% says that today, from the financial institutions, they say that 43% of them is experimenting it. All right, and mostly are local presence. They are in the midst of experimenting it because they see that we need to be cautious on looking into here, but looking into that, how do you started with the journey? So 70% of the respondents says that, okay, let's start with the internal. For example, let's start with our staff. All right. So that was very a good in line of what Bank Islam's doing, because we also begin embracing AI with ourselves. We start with the chatbot within the for our staff internally. We start also the machine learnings also, and then before we really apply the AI and machine learnings in the bigger scales, for example, to the customer itself. Okay, because there are two considerations. First, when we start internally, is for us to learn, and then along the journey, we know that should consider, what should be cautious of, what is our limits on applying AI and machine learning in the organization. And then once we are ready, then only we will be able to confidently launch to the bigger scales actually. So this is a very pro approach, and that is what the approach in Bank Islam, and similarly from what other industries also is doing today actually. And also another takeaway is that when you consider about AI, I think in summary I would like to say that taking AI as your co-pilot, all right? Don't over relying on machine learning and AI actually. So just make it as a copilot. So for example, I just try to share with you some of the use cases. Imagine that we have two thought process, the two school of thoughts. The first one is the self-drivings, and then the second one is that you use Waze in your drivings, right? So if you look into here, self-driving cars is actually people has been trying to do it not the last 10 years, maybe 20 years or 30 years again, but it does not be able to operationalize in a bigger scale yet. Okay, but it will, but not sure. But that is one school of thoughts. Okay, to have self-driving cars. And that it was because there's a lot of cases. If you can rate in the news that Tesla car suddenly hit some, it was wrongly calculated and ended with accidents. Then it hit some cyclists. So it looks very scary, right? So people try to take one step behind and say, hey, should we go or not? Rather than, for example, on looking into another school of thought that we use as a co-pilot, we use Waze now, and that has been successfully been done, right? I mean, every day I come here also with Waze, everybody here with, just although we know that where is the Great Eastern Mall building, but we just want to check the traffic, and that is the most efficient way of using AI and machine learning, right? Which is to take the AI and machine learning as your co-pilot, right, and not replacing in your daily activities, right? So looking into here, that is the key takeaway, and I would like to end up my presentations. Go back to you.
And now that we have quite some time to spare, we actually have a list of questions for you, which is great because we have a lot of time. And first off, Mr. Fairuz, we're going to kick off the Q&A session with... Someone asked, can you share some specific examples of how Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad has incorporated ethical considerations into its AI initiatives and projects to ensure responsible and fair use of AI technologies?
Okay, so... For us is that what we did is we need to have like a peer review, right? Peer review. So now we are establishing, for example, this what we call as Bank Islam data science community, because the data science has been we have people, a lot of people in different divisions. We have people in compliance, we have people in HR also, we have people in retail banking, we have people doing data science in non-individual group institutional banking also. So what happened is that in order, everybody is building their own data science project, all right? And we need a peer review, because when a data scientist, for example, when we develop, we need a person who review that particular work, so that to reduce any unethical things, or to allow that the model developed is very transparent, for example, okay, and is aligned with other people's are doing. Standards of machine learning, for example. Okay, so those are the approaches that we are doing right now. Okay, looking into ethics, for example, on the ChatGPT as a whole organizations. Maybe I would like to ponder you guys. Has your company done any awareness on your staff on related to using the ChatGPT, for example? That is need to be considered, all right? Because the thing is, within your organization, you can't really restrict your staff or the employee to start using ChatGPT. Just imagine that, for example, that the employee posted something, some confidential data informations to ChatGPT, right? You just say that, okay, what is the blah blah blah, some confidential information, posted it to the OpenAI, and then the OpenAI will responded. But do you know that at the back, what happens? At the back, what happens is that probably the ChatGPT will capture the informations on that, and then they will try to learn, and then it will make it as part of its learning pre-trained model on the foundation model itself. Okay, so that is dangerous. So what I'm saying is that make awareness sessions, all right, to your employee. Okay, start revising your policies and procedures. Okay, for example, the employee is not allowed to disclose any confidential information outside their offices, for example. It just similarly, you in certain organizations you can't send certain information or PDF to unauthorized recipient, right? So kind of that. Start revising, and then make a survey, right? From time to time, make a survey, right? So we did that, and then you say that, okay, what do you do? How do you use ChatGPT, and then for what purposes? All right. So that, in a nutshell, basically those three areas is that for us to educate the employees, saying that when you start using this AI or machine learnings, for example, the ChatGPT, must consider about the ethicals and must consider about not releasing the informations, confidence in informations. Okay, all right.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fairuz. Second question for you. In the financial industry, AI can greatly impact decision-making processes. How does your department at Bank Islam address the challenges of bias and transparency in AI algorithms to maintain trust and fairness in customer interactions?
Okay, so basically in our data science development, we already started using FIT, the Veritas 2.0 that releases by the MAS. That's what we did to reduce bias and fairness. And also, again, we did a peer review lah. Whenever we develop something, we ask some other data science to review our work.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fairuz. The third question, we actually have quite a few. Someone asked, what is the role of regulatory compliance and industry standards in guiding the implementation of AI technologies within your organization, particularly in the context of data privacy and ethical AI practices?
Okay, so for us in financial institutions, we have the several governance body, for example, the BNM, that helps to regulate the activities within AI. So I think there are several papers released by BNM related to AI, and then in particularly, do you know that BNM has established what they call as a sandboxing since 2016. That was particularly for fintech to test out any applications related to financials. So I would like to suggest if we also have a similar sandboxing for AI, so that industry players like us will be able to participate and contribute some ideas in order for us to share our experience and also get some other insight. How does we moving forward the AI in terms of looking into what you are saying, the fairness and also biases. Right.
All right. Moving on now. Next question for you, Mr. Fairuz. Someone asked, nowadays, too many hackers or scammers attach bank and make people lose their money. How does the bank how can the bank solve this problem when AI era is coming? And is there any prevention to take care for?
Okay, there are many instances. I understand that. For examples, I remember in the US, there's cases that someone made a call that pretend to be his brother, and then asking him to transfer certain money. So obviously that is a scammer, because there is a technology that if you start learning a specific person's voice or tone, and then the AI will be able to replicate that voices, and then and then us, and then tend to do some fraud activities lah. Alright. So I think there is no straightforward answer. How can we mitigate this? Because the evolutions of the AI is too fast, right? But we do have proper, for examples that we have scam centers that have been established by the authorities recently this year. So that is one of the good examples. Second is that we need to have, for example, a lot of working committees that try to evaluate, just like working committees that monitor what are the most recent trend. All right. So if specifically looking into fraudsters, I think, in my opinion, is if we are able to understand the trend and the pattern itself, because there's a lot of ways the patterns, and those fraudsters outside there, they are much more intelligent. I mean, they eagerly they want to say, then they would think a lot of many ways to penetrate the security, for example, right? So we need to learn the pattern and then proactively provide controls to mitigate the patterns. Right.
So we have a couple more questions for you, since we have a few minutes to spare. Mr. Fairuz, someone asked, does the Bank Islam cross-check AI-produced responses versus actual derivations from actuarial workings and your data repository and analytics?
Okay, so at this moment we do check, but it was as a human being check. Okay, all right, because there's not much tools available outside there for us to automate the whole process. Okay, but we do in the midst of exploring other tools. For example, one of it is a feed, and then the other one is, for example, I can't remember that, but it was available in GitHub also. Okay, those are the tools that can be used to mediate the responses from the AI and also from the actual human beings' knowledge. Actually.
Next question for you, Mr. Fairuz. Someone asked, is there any scamming insurance or any forensic ability to bring scamming cases to enforcement and prosecution?
Okay, there are two type of questions there. Okay, if I try to understand that, if you look into scamming cases, yes, there is. Okay, there is, but detection is one part, and then proactively tackle or mitigate, that is another part, because that also, and the second part involve processes, because that involve how can we develop a centralized monitoring, and then we have collaborations between the banks and also with the enforcement agencies, for example, and how does the informations, when it first detected, can be seamlessly flow, I mean, to the enforcement agency to make an actions. Right? So I think that is something that we can propose and that we can have in a broader perspective, that we have to have a proper process itself. On the first part itself, on the detections, there are many tools. Okay, there are many ways how to do that. Proactively, how do we do that is, from technical perspective, I think we have to look into patterns, right? There are many ways. For example, outliers detections, anomalies, right? Those are the proactive approaches for us to detect a pattern before the cases happen, right? So there are two parts. The detection is one part, and then second is on how to mitigate and combat the fraudsters, right?
So much, Mr. Fairuz. That would be our final question for you. And